Kgosi Leruo II is young, black, rich, and an achiever in the world of big business. The perfect role model for post-apartheid South Africa.
With assets worth $4 billion and the title of the richest community in Africa, or the world, today we tell the tale of one of Africa's greatest David and Goliath scenarios. The story of wealth through community organization and land ownership, as well as struggle. The inspirational story of the Royal Bafokeng Nation, the Platinum Kings of Africa. So let's jump into today's video, and as usual, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. So let's start from the beginning. The Royal Bafokeng Nation, people of the Dew, can trace their descent as far back as 1140, with a long history of envisioning a better future for its people, which can still be seen today, as they had migrated due to a long drought, crossing the dusty plains with determination alone, until they settled in the area of Rustengberg Valley, in South Africa, and Phokeng being their home. However, they would have to fight with the blood of their people to protect their new home from those who would want their lands, as well as forging friendships with neighboring tribes, the Voortrekkers and Paul Kruger, ironically. The first king of a line of Bafokeng Kings was Kgosi Sekete III, who had ruled from the early 1700s, who was preceded by various kings, with the current ruler Kgosi Leruo Molotlegi being the 15th direct descendant of Sekete III, from a line of fathers to sons. The Bafokeng have had a long patrilineal line of kings, with the most prominent being Kgosi August Mokgatle, who ruled from 1834 to 1891. His reign marked the start of something which had never been seen at the time in the region. Like many African communities at the time, the Bafokeng people had been unethically and unfairly removed from their ancestral land during colonialism, and had been reduced to laborers on the land that their people have lived on for centuries. What made Kgosi August Mokgatle special is that, unlike most leaders at the time, who had either been embroiled in violent campaigns or simply eliminated, he has sent men to the Kimberley diamond fields to earn wages, realizing they had to purchase farms to retain the property they were essentially entitled to. Thus, by pooling community resources, the Bafokeng started buying back the land they had occupied for centuries, but which had been appropriated, which is shocking considering the era in which they lived, as most of the land of South Africa had been owned by the white colonists, and by the turn of the 19th century, 22 farms had been bought, and another 11 had been bought in the 20th century, which initially had been registered in the names of the missionaries of the Rustenburg Missionary Society working among the community. This was done by giving the purchase price, usually in cattle reportedly, through the Kgosi to the missionaries, and later in cash with the wages earned. However, in later years, this would cause legal administrative issues with the missionaries, the Boers, and the state until the 1930s, unfortunately. And 33 years after his death, and from the efforts of him and his people, the nation would receive a blessing, being that in 1925, the world's largest deposit of platinum group metals were found on the land they had legally bought back. A geological wonder, the ore body called the Bushveld Igneous Complex contains roughly 80% of the world's known platinum reserves. However, sadly, due to the period in time this occurred under white minority rule, mining companies would pay inadequate amounts of money to the Royal Bafokeng Nation for the right to mine these metals, as to pay them a fair or slightly below market rate would directly contradict the goal of apartheid and give greater motive for black communities to mobilize and liberate. This would spark nearly 70 years of land disputes, of which the pre-1994 transition government, aided by mining giants, would unsuccessfully try to strip the Royal Bafokeng Nation of their land rights. Sadly, only post-apartheid they would receive the royalties they deserved via a trust which Lutheran missionaries aided in setting up, who would hold the title deeds on behalf of the Bafokeng. In this way, the Bafokeng Nation acquired property as early as 1869, as South Africa's 1913 Natives Land Act prevented black Africans from owning land outside certain areas, which made up 13% of South Africa. The situation worsened due to Lucas Manhope of Pt.1 Bantuzan, who is referenced as seeing the Bafokeng as his rivals and enemies, Bantuzans being a black homeland created by the apartheid regime. As Kgosi Edward Patrick Lebone Molotlegi, Kgosi Lebone I, who ruled the Bafokeng from 1988 to 1994, was greatly opposed to Bantuzans, which put him in direct conflict with Manhope, as well as many other things, resulting in Manhope detaining the Bafokeng king until he was forced into exile in neighboring Botswana, resulting in Manhope recognizing Kgosi Edward's brother, Makwaro George Molotlegi, as Kgosi of the Bafokeng. This situation prevailed until 1994, when Manhope was forced out of power as Baputatswana reintegrated into South Africa at the end of apartheid, which allowed Kgosi Lebone I to return and lead, as well as the Royal Bafokeng being fully able to reclaim assets from the previously mentioned trust. And post-apartheid, they were able to fully reclaim their land at the end of apartheid in 1994. Post-1994, many things had occurred. By 1997, brothers Edward and Mokwaro had both passed away, with Edward's son, King Lebone II, being the new ruler. By 1999, the Royal Bafokeng Nation had won a court settlement against South Africa's second largest platinum company, Impala Platinum Mining, Implats, resulting in the nation receiving a 22% royalty on all platinum taken from their territory and an ownership stake in Implats, with their share tripling to more than $50 million by 2001. The Bafokeng receive annual royalties of approximately $63 million from platinum mining. With the start of the century, after so much to celebrate, the Royal Bafokeng Nation were yet again struck by tragedy, as Kgosi Lebone II had passed away after only ruling for roughly 5 years. He was subsequently succeeded by his younger brother, Kgosi Leruo Molotlegi, and he was enthroned in August 2003. So, if you enjoyed today's video or learned something great, please do watch out for the second part of this video. And as usual, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more content like this.
If you look at Bafokeng geographic area, we've built all the roads that you see that are tarred. The schools that you see are all built by us. The water reticulation, the electricity, everything that you see here without government subsidy. So that's how we're going to continue doing it, but we're going to manage it more in a professional way.